Welcome into a brand new episode of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Stacey King, Tim Kelley alongside. Tim, you're out in Vegas. Did you have any fun out there?
Oh, it was an absolute blast, Mark. Up all night. I mean, man, couldn't keep me away from the spearmint rhino.
Oh, man. The spearmint rhino. Oh, my God.
And the crab stable.
Oh, my God.
No, you were there in business. You were saying you got to bed early.
Well, one of my partners wanted me to teach him how to play craps, so I showed him. And then you're not going to believe what this guy does. After watching me for like over an hour, he's Lithuanian, says, "I see your system." And then
they figured you out, huh?
So he puts $300 down. He rolls a 3, out. Rolls a 3, out. Rolls another 3, out. I said, "You got a
system to rolling dice."
He says, "This game not for me." But I asked the table host, "Have you ever? How long have you been doing this?" It's 25 years. I said, "Have you ever seen anyone roll 3 threes to start?" And he goes, "No, because it's mathematically impossible." And this guy did it. Truly unbelievable.
That's what you call
crap out.
Yeah.
7 out.
And Stacey and Adam have been busy calling some winning games. The Bulls on a 3-game winning streak. And it's unfortunate Josh Giddey rolled his ankle last night because he was playing at an all-star level.
Since the trade. I mean, since Zach's been gone, his numbers have gone up. Both him and Buzelis' numbers have gone up. We talk about it. There was a lot of shots. Zach had a lot of shots. And so shots were going to be, pretty much distributed. You thought it'd be Vooch. You thought it'd be Kobe. But the aggressiveness of the way Josh is playing, he's playing like a lead dog. I mean, he's playing like the alpha. He's not taking a back seat. He gets the Bulls off to a great start, attacking the basket, gets downhill, gets to the rim. He's currently averaging 23 points a game, 10, almost 11 rebounds, and 8.4 assists.
Yeah.
And the numbers that he's shooting 53% from the field, and he's shooting 53% from the three-point line, which that's been the biggest question of whether he'd be able to make shots from the three-point line. Teams will back off of him, and he's, it's confidence. You give a guy confidence, you give him the green light. I mean, you're going to knock down shots.
It seems like there was really a divided opinion on Josh when the season began. A lot of that is because people miss Alex Caruso. I mean, he's always going to be a fan favorite as hard as he plays. He got off to a kind of an uneven start, but he's been playing so well. He's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the season. We had our tourist Karnisovas on last week. If you missed that episode, go back and check it out. And it seems like they're going to have to make a decision on whether or not they want to try to sign him before he gets to the market, or if they let the market be set by other teams. Which way do you think they should go?
You got to let the team set the market. I think if they had to redo the Patrick Williams situation, I think they would, change the way they handle that situation, because he was a restricted free agent, and they tried to, they tried to make the move to sign him before he got out there, and it didn't work. It didn't work, and so you don't want Josh to get out there. You want Josh to get out there and let the market set, because what he's looking for right now is $30 million a year. Okay, that's a lot of money for anybody. Okay. And unfortunately in this league, the way it's set up, you have to pay your guys, even if you don't think they're worth it. $30 million is Steph Curry money. $30 million a year is LeBron money. Those kind of players, Kevin Durant, those guys
are getting 50 and 60 now.
But those guys are elite players. So you don't have a problem, paying elite players what they're worth, because you're going to get it back in the same season, basically, with the way that the marketing is, the price of your franchise, the brand. You're going to get all that back. Yeah. And they're elite players. People want to see them. They're selling out arenas. When you start paying the teams that are not winning, and you get caught having to pay your star player, who might be honestly a second or third option on a really good team, but he's the number one player on your team, you're kind of forced to pay that person. You're forced to pay them what the market value is for that type of player. And when Josh is looking at, Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs is on $30 million a year. Now, if you ask me, Jalen Suggs is a very good player. He's not a $30 million player.
No,
I mean, he's really, one area where he's really good at is defense. He's an elite defender, on-ball defensive player. But you can't ask Jalen Suggs to go out there and get you 20 and 10 and 10 every night. I mean, Josh Giddey can. Josh Giddey floats with a triple-double every single night. So, what is his value? What is his value? Let the team set it. Let the other team set it, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of money, out there. Some team will do something to try to maneuver, and because he is a very good player.
And he's 22
years old. and he's got, over 400 starts in his career as a professional athlete. He's a guy that's going to get triple doubles. Rebound. He rebounds very well for a guard. 6'8", he goes in there and he battles. He rebounds like a small forward. And you just can't find that, with his size. They re-signed Lonzo. That was a great signing. You got him on an affordable contract. And you got some insurance just in case. But having both those guys on your roster, now you got big guards. And I'm a big guard guy. I love big guards. And the Bulls right now currently have on the roster, going into next season, you have 3 big guards. You have, Giddey at 6'8", you have Ball at 6'6", you got Kevin Huerter at 6'7". Those are saying Kobe 6'5", so you got big guards. The little guards, it's tough. Trey Jones is 6'2", so you got some really big guards. Io's, 6'3", 6'4", so you got big guards, and now you can address some other needs.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting with AK last week, something I really wasn't aware of until you pointed it out, they're looking at free agency in 2026, not this summer, but next summer. He said that the cap is going to be somewhere around 170 million, and they only have 45 million committed in salaries beyond 2026. Now, whatever you pay Josh Giddey, you add to that. You're going to have to decide, are you going to give Kobe White a new contract? Are you going to give Io a new contract? So that money's going to start to disappear. But the point is, they have options that they can possibly go star chasing in 2026.
It's going to be tough. It's all based on what you're going to pay, Josh Giddey. And then you got Kobe coming back up. And Kobe right now is on an affordable contract. He's on a great contract. If you're, your organization, looking to say, okay, here we got a starter who's putting up, 17 to 20 points a game, is capable of scoring 30, 40 points, and we got him at an affordable contract. So you won't be getting a discount next go around.
Yeah, he's going to want
he's going to want the same kind of contract basically that Josh Giddey is.
Right.
And that's going to be tough. They're going to have to make a decision because right now with Kobe has had some great games, and he's had games where you don't know he's even out there on the floor. He hasn't been consistent, and this is a new role for Kobe. Kobe's been in a lot of different roles since he's been here, but this role he's in now where he's a scorer now because you don't need him at the point guard position. He's a combo guard. You don't need him at the point guard position because you clearly have 2 better options in Zoe and Giddey. So now you move him to the 2 guard spot where I feel he's the best at, where he's capable of going out there and scoring at least 22 points a game from that position. Is he Zach Lavine? No. He's not the athlete that Zach is, but he can shoot. He plays better defense. He's a better defender than Zach. So right there, you're ahead of the game, but how much is he actually going to be asking for when it's his turn?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And, watching the Bulls win these last few games, the new guys have all contributed. Zach Collins has done a really nice job. I mean, an athletic big. He's been hurt a lot in his career, but you can see why he was a lottery pick. I mean, he's a guy that does a lot of things for a 6'10" big. Trey Jones has been good running the team, and Huerter's making some shots now.
Well, and, you listen to the fan base. Fan base wasn't really happy with what the return was for Zach Lavine. But now you look at it, it's still early. I mean, you can't really, but in the early returns, the Bulls got a lot back. These guys are contributing. You think about since the All-Star break, right before we went on the All-Star break, we got killed by Detroit. We lost twice to Detroit. One game we were down 50, and we just looked like a lifeless team, a team that had no energy whatsoever, got just smoked. Coming back after the All-Star game is a totally different team. Guys are, these new guys are contributing. Billy started giving them minutes, contributing. They started going out there. But if you followed any of these guys' career, Kevin Huerter in Atlanta, Trey Jones has been valued as a very good point guard. A lot of teams love him. San Antonio ended up starting him because they needed somebody that could run with Wemby and get Wemby the ball, and they stopped giving to Sohan the ball, who was killing them at the point guard spot. Now he's on the bench. So, and then you look at, Collins. Collins has been solid. Collins has been solid everywhere he's go. He can run the floor. His defense is really, really good. I think it's underrated what he's been able to do since he's been here because he's more better athlete than people think. He gets up on the pick and roll, which I like. One of the things that hurts us a lot before he came, Vooch only plays drop zone. Drop zone is a horrible defense. I'm sorry, unless you got Mutombo or someone back there like a Rudy Gobert that can erase shots, drop zone makes no sense whatsoever because if you're dropping zone, the reason why you're dropping is to protect the rim and pick up anybody coming to the rim and block shots. If your guy is not a shot blocker back there, then why are you playing a drop zone? because guys are going right by Vooch and scoring anyway. So what you see Zach doing is Zach gets up on the pick and roll. He's much more athletic, so he can slide and give some support when that guard comes off that screen just long enough for the defensive guard to get back to his man, and then you drop zone back into the plane, and he's got his hands active. The defense has been totally different with him when Vooch and those guys were out. Totally different. Like you can see it totally different. The points in the paint were down. Guys weren't getting to layups all the time. The Bulls were able to get out and contest shots, and they were able to rebound. They were able to rebound the basketball and get out on the break, and there's been a difference in the game. That's why all these games have been ultra competitive. They've had a chance to win almost every game that they've lost. They've had a chance to win.
It was funny, you mentioned Zach Collins, and I was thinking, Monday night I watched Zach Lavine and DeMar play against the Knicks. They got killed.
Yeah.
And Tibbs was yelling at him to get up on Lavine the whole time. And it's funny. Zach had been the Western Conference Player of the Week going back a week, and he's been playing really well. But you just see how DeMar walking the ball up, that doesn't work. And Sacramento's finding that out as well.
Well, they don't have a point guard.
Right.
So you're using Malik Monk as your point guard, who's a scorer. He's a sixth man. He's a guy that can come in and get you 25, 30 points. He doesn't know how to distribute the ball and get guys easier shots. Like the basic pass, like if you come off the screen, he can make. Okay, but anticipating and reading how the defender is going to, guard your guy and then be able to get the ball to your guy in a comfortable position where he can score. That's where he has problems. And they don't have a point guard. And so when you lose a guy like Fox, you didn't replace Fox with a point guard. You brought in a scorer like Zach Lavine, and Zach's going to put up big numbers for them. It's obvious. He's too good of a player. He's always going to be in this league. He's a top 10 scorer in this league, okay? Is he a top 10 player? No, he's not.
And now, again, he's stuck on a team that's stuck in the middle of the Western Conference because they can't contend with that group.
Well, I think, I'll be honest with you, I think he's happy because he's closer to home. His family's able to see him. His parents are able to see the grandkids. I think he's happy. I think he realizing it. They're probably talking, what they're going to do this summer. As far as who they're going to bring in, what they need. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize you need a point guard. So that should be number one. You already got all the key pieces that you need. You just don't have a point guard. And you fired Mike Brown. Doug Christie started off great. Now teams are starting to figure them out a little bit. And you still got to defend this league. If you can't guard people, and Zach's not the greatest defender, and neither is DeMar. So those two guys in your lineup that, and then you got Sabonis out right now with injury. So they're struggling a little bit. But, if you say who got the early returns on the trade, early returns, you got to kind of say the Bulls have got the early returns because the pieces that they got back that everybody thought was just a throw-in, like you're just throwing in a bag of chips with Fanta, with a Fanta soda. No, these guys can actually play. Trey Jones has been a huge, huge impact coming off the bench. Now he's starting because of the injuries, but these last 3 or 4 games that he's played, he's had some amazing fourth quarters where if he doesn't have those fourth quarters in Miami and Orlando, we don't win those games.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see the futures of those guys and what happens with Zach Lavine and DeMar in Sacramento. And speaking of the Western Conference, Nikola Jokic continues to amaze. He had the biggest stat line in the history of the NBA where he had a 30-20-20 game. One of the guys who covers Nikola on a regular basis, Mike Singer, he wrote a book on Jokic called Why So Serious? Of course, the famous Joker line. We're going to bring in Mike after a little break here, talk about his book, how he got to know Jokic and went over to Serbia and talked to his brothers and the family and the whole thing. So that is next. A fascinating story here on Gimme the Hot Sauce. But first, before we go, I want to tell you about our great friend, Jeff Vukovich. For all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business, make sure to contact our good friend. He'll treat you like royalty. You can call Jeff at 847-825-4783 or get him online at jeffvuk.com. VUK.com. Stacey, you got a jingle for us today?
Nationwide is on your side.
Nicely done. And as we get ready to welcome in Mike Singer to talk about his new book, Why So Serious, here on Gimme the Hot Sauce. We are back on Gimme the Hot Sauce. NBA fans have been marveling at what Nikola Jokic is doing in Denver. He's won 3 of the last 4 MVP awards. Just last week, he put up a line that's never been seen in the history of the league, a 30-point, 20-rebound, 20-assist performance. The guy we continue to marvel at what he's done, and someone who's been able to chronicle his accomplishments is Mike Singer, who worked for the Denver Post, and now he's working in the Nuggets front office. And I had a chance to work with Mike briefly at NBC Sports Chicago. You were working in the digital department before you made it big. I knew you when, Mike. You remember those years when you were in the back room knocking away on those articles for the website?
Of course, man. I was it was Comcast Chicago. I think I was pre Vinny Goodwill. I think that was my first foray into, the NBA media landscape and seeing what the Bulls were about, 2013, 2014, those Tibbs years. So yeah, of course I remember working with you.
Yeah, those were interesting times, no question about it. But now you've had a chance to, cover a team that's won an NBA championship, and you're working in the front office now. We want to start out talking about the book, Why So Serious? And people who have seen Nikola Jokic in media know that he's kind of an unwilling interview subject. He doesn't really like to give a lot. You see him after the games, and he's barely giving you, 5-second answers. How did you get him to cooperate with the book? And I don't know what his role was in terms of putting the book together, but was he a willing subject? And how did you initially approach him about the whole project?
Eventually, he was a willing subject, not necessarily from the jump. So he and I had a good rapport. Obviously, I'd covered him for 5 years as the Denver Post beat writer for the Nuggets, and there was definitely a solid foundation and a good working relationship, to the point where I trusted, if I did all the requisite work around Joker, that I thought I had a good chance of him agreeing to sit down with me. Ultimately, I'm in Serbia. I let him know I'm working on this. I told him, I don't want you to find out I'm working on this book from anybody else. I was as transparent, as honest as could possibly be. I actually ran into him in Serbia, which I write about in the introduction of the book, which was hilarious. But at that point, I didn't know. It was a bit of a risk. I didn't know if he was going to agree. But in talking to his dad, who only speaks Serbian, by the way, so I had a translator, in talking to his very first coach, his earliest teammates on the Nuggets, other, Balkan players in the NBA, I established enough trust around Joker to where I think about, let's say, 60% of the way through the book, I asked him, hey, man, will you sit down for an indeterminate amount of time? We didn't agree how long it was going to be. And ultimately, it turned out to be the longest English interview he's ever given, which was 23 minutes long. And and look, the stuff that I asked him, he had never spoken about before. I almost exclusively asked him about his youth growing up in Serbia, just because nobody had ever asked him. And it's not that, from a media perspective, it's not that he hates doing those press conferences. It's that he hates being asked the same thing over and over and over again. It's rote, it's boring, it becomes robotic. The way you keep this dude engaged is if you pique his interest, ask him something funny, ask him something he hasn't been asked before. And the fact that he had not spoken about growing up in Serbia and, what that was like and his influences there and how close he came to not playing basketball, which I get into in the book. Look, I had his attention, and it was the best interview, he's ever given me. And at the end of the interview, he goes, "Look, man, you talk to the right people, you talk to the good people, and I kind of like that." And so to have his kind of tacit approval of the project in that way, that meant everything to me.
Mike, one of the things when you look from the outside looking in, at Joker, and as a fan, I'm a big fan of the way he plays the game. But one of the things I really like about him is basketball is not like doesn't seem like it's the number one priority for him. He seems like he has a lot of interest outside of basketball that keeps him grounded, his family, his friends, I've seen him riding the little ponies and horses and on the little chariots, and I've seen him dancing in discos, having a good time. And you listen to him talk, it's basically like basketball. Yeah, I love basketball, but it's not the most important thing to me. Is that what you got throughout when you're writing the book?
Yeah. So the way I would describe it is, I don't think that basketball defines who he is. And I think he would hate it if it defined who he is. I think he cares way more about his inner circle of friends. I think he cares way more about relaxing and like enjoying himself. He definitely is very grounded, and I think it's a really valuable lesson for a bunch of NBA stars. I mean, they're thrust into this spotlight that some of them never asked for. Joker in particular, he never wanted this attention, this limelight. He never even thought he was going to make it to the NBA. He thought he might top out in the Euro League. That the fact that all this attention and celebrity was kind of just thrust upon him, like he never forgot who he was. And so when he talks about, when his kids grow up, he doesn't want them to know him as a basketball player. He wants them to know them as who he is as a guy and what he was like growing up in Serbia, and the fact that he has maintained the same circle of friends he's had since he was a kid. Like the fact that he hasn't changed, in my opinion, is among the most remarkable things when you give it hundreds of millions of dollars and all this responsibility and all this, fame. But again, it's unwanted fame. And one of the things that he told me is that the fame that he's kind of accepted is one way of sacrificing yourself. That's the quote he used. It's sacrificing yourself in a way that he never explicitly agreed to, but it's just kind of come with the territory.
In talking to his family, we've all seen the pictures of Nikola as a young kid, pudgy. You would never imagine he was going to be a three-time NBA MVP. What kind of stories did you get from his family members that gave you some insight into the journey he had to take to get to the NBA?
So I would say one of the most amazing and revealing things that I found out is that his dad, his basketball coach, and his horse trainer, they used to congregate at a bar down the street from Joker's house every single night and basically banter back and forth and deliberate about this dude's headspace and how they were going to convince him to engage in basketball. All he wanted to do was be with the horses and train the horses. And they eventually made this compromise. They said, the only way you can do the horse thing is if you get back in the gym and if you commit to basketball. They had to incentivize, in my opinion, the best player in the world to get back to basketball when this dude was 12, 13, 14 years old. That is an incredible revelation that, he never would have shared. And so if you get into the book, like I said, he only talked to me for 23 minutes. Okay. That being said, the only way that I felt I could tell a Joker story is by working around him. And that's what I was talking about. All the teammates all around him. That's how you kind of unearth and unpack the complex, and I'm going to call them cunning layers to this dude.
One of the things that's got to be a real comfort to him, especially being in Denver, you see a lot of images and pictures of his brothers being involved in Denver with him. I mean, some of the times you see him and getting ready to fighting people, but they have his back. And when you look at his brothers, like, one's like 300 plus pounds, and the other one's like a UFC, a martial artist fighter. And they are really entrenched in his life as well off the court to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Basically, bodyguards. Basically, nothing goes wrong outside of that basketball circle. Is that a fair assessment?
Exactly. However, I think that it almost undermines how valuable they were, because we know them when they're in the NBA. We see them in the stands. We see them all emotional, all charged up when Joker gets a foul call against them. But what they did, specifically Strahinja, the older one, what he did in sort of guiding Joker and in sort of being instrumental and being a pillar to him when he was in Belgrade, when he was in Serbia, and ensuring that he was not going to fail had not been shared before. So, Joker told me, he was like, Strahinja definitely sacrificed his life for me. Like, he moved to Belgrade. He moved to an apartment where he was basically, his job was to make sure that he practiced, that he ate right, that he didn't quit when it got difficult. And like the fact that he basically gave up everything that he was pursuing, business endeavors, whatever, to ensure that his younger brother maximized what he could become. People don't realize that without the brothers, it never, ever happens.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people who aren't serious NBA fans forget that he was drafted in the second round. And when he first went in Denver, a lot of people thought Yusuf Nurkic was the better player. And then, and then all of a sudden, he started getting some playing time. They trade Nurkic. He takes over. When you talk to him, the whole story is pretty remarkable. I mean, does he even comprehend where he came from in terms of going from a second round pick, kind of an afterthought, to being a 3-time MVP?
No, that's one of I'll say the indelible lessons about Joker. I think that he's a great example of what happens when you're not necessarily chasing a goal. What happens when you chase a goal? You're always looking up and you're not focused on where you are. And this dude committed to his body early. That is one thing that he doesn't get enough credit for. He committed to his body with the strength coach Felipe Eichenberger. He was in the weight room incessantly. He worked on his conditioning. He worked on his strength. He obviously had the skills. And in fact, some of the earliest teammates, Gary Harris, Wilson Chandler, Darrell Arthur, they all knew when he came in, they said, hey, yo, this guy might be the most talented guy on our team as a rookie. There were like quiet whispers about it. So I think that Joker does understand kind of how preposterous his story is, but he's so humble that he kind of shrugs his shoulders at it, and he wants other, if he's going to be discussed, he wants other people to talk about it. He doesn't want to gas himself up. He doesn't want to boast. He doesn't want, like, he really, really never expected to make it to the NBA. Like his relationship with the NBA was watching YouTube clips of guys. He didn't stay up till 3 a.m. watching games. He watched Magic, he watched Michael, he watched Kobe, he watched Hakeem and Tim Duncan. And those were the guys. And it was like, oh, and Tracy McGrady. Like he watched these dudes and he was like, okay, like I love it. And maybe I'm going to be a EuroLeague guy. But then he kept getting better and he kept getting better. And all of a sudden he gets drafted. Then he gets an opportunity. He wins MVP of the Adriatic League. And it was like a slow, steady climb to where he is now.
Yeah, one of the things I like about him, and you can tell, like you said, he's not beating his chest. He's not out there being demonstrative. Look at me, look at me. He Every time you watch him play, it seems like he's trying to get his teammates involved with all the assists that he's doing, and it does seem like he wants his teammates to shine as well as him. And he's very comfortable. He has no ego when it comes to that. A lot of superstars don't want to do that. They want the attention to be all on them. They want put
LeBron.
crowns on their head. They want to do all these things. And he's not a showman like that. He just wants to hoop. He wants to win, and he wants his teammates to shine as well. So I would concur with that.
I mean, isn't that commendable? If that's what his priorities are, is to win. It's, one fun stat is the year that he did not win MVP the last 3 or 4 years, the Nuggets went on to win a championship. And Joker didn't care. What did he win that year? He won Finals MVP. He won a championship. He won the one thing that matters to him. And like the first year he won MVP, it was during the COVID year. He talked about what he wanted his legacy to be. And I always thought it was a really remarkable statement what he said. He said if his story and his example that he set in the precedent he sets an example for kids in terms of just getting outside and exercising, then that's good enough for him. Like what an unbelievable prior or approach that he has kind of wrapped his head around, that like if people look at him and are like, man, maybe I can go there. Maybe I don't look the part. Maybe I don't jump as high or run as fast or whatever, but maybe I still have something. Maybe there's something for me and it's something's worth pursuing. And the fact that, kids who quote unquote don't look the part can still dream about making it to the league is an unbelievable legacy, in my opinion.
What's the funniest experience you had or story you can tell about being over in Serbia to do research and interviews for the book? What was the craziest thing that happened to you when you visited that country?
Let's see. I mean, I was out with some of his friends, like, and like I see how he parties. Stacey was talking about some of the videos. I was out with some of his friends, like they get after it. And I love that about him. He like, I don't know that it was crazy, but I really understood a little bit more about him. There's this river in Sombor where it's hot as all hell. Like it's so hot in Sombor in the summer times. And all you want to do is just chill by the river, get in the water. And that's where this dude is most happiest, is swimming and fishing and kayaking and hiking. And it's like when he detaches, like that's when he's at his most peaceful. That's who he wants to be. He wants to be far away from the spotlight. In terms of stories, I ended up having tea or lunch with his agent Misko Raznatovic, who was the owner of Mega Basket, the club where he played. And I'm just sitting there with all of his cronies. They're all talking Serbian. I have no idea what they're saying. They might, I don't know. I don't even want to I don't even want to hazard a guess of what they're probably talking crap about me. This dumb American came over. Like, I don't know. But like they were just it was so awesome to see a little bit of who he was. And I meant to say this earlier when Stacey asked about his brothers, like, yes, Strahinja and Nemanja deserve a lot of credit, but also they're about 10 years older than him. And when he was a kid, they would they would dominate him. They would just punk him. They would play like little Nerf basketball in their apartment and they would just terrorize him. And the fact when you have these dudes who are that much bigger, that much older, Nicola told me, he was like, look, man, if I cried, they didn't want to play with me anymore. So I just sucked it up. And I just said, all right, I got to deal with getting pounded here. And I think that probably had a significant impact on kind of developing the toughness. Like, and when you talk about NBA physicality and all that, he's like, look, brother, I played in Serbia. Like, I'm good.
One of the things I see happening with him is that, first of all, he the kids in Europe are going to idolize him. They're probably idolizing him now with all the things that he's accomplished over in the States. He's gonna, when he's done playing, Mike, he's gonna have an opportunity to be the greatest European player to ever play the game. Because you go back now, you say, okay, had Sabonis not gotten hurt, he would be on the top of that mantle, before all the injuries, and he still had a great career. You got Petrovic, his career was cut short. Had he finished out playing, no telling where he would have been. So there's been a lot of great European players coming over, and with the way he's played, with all the MVPs, he's probably going to win one or two more before his career is over. Do you see him going down as the greatest European player of all time?
Yeah, I mean, the other two, Giannis and Dirk, you got to include them, right? But I mean, yes, you're starting to stack MVPs, maybe fourth this year. Now you're talking about the upper echelon of NBA players, not just European players. Now, I think what probably distinguishes him over, some of the other foreign guys is going to be another title. If he can get one more title, if not two more, then we're really starting to have some real conversations about top 5, top 10 type guy. But in terms of his skill, the way that he plays the game, the way that I think he has changed people's understanding of the game and what can translate to the NBA, I think is incredible. And I mean, I'll ask you guys from your guys' perspective as broadcasters, doesn't he make it fun to broadcast those games? I listen to those broadcasts and I hear a little pep in your voice when the Nuggets come to town.
Yeah, I got mad when they ejected him the first 15 minutes of the game when he came to Chicago.
Bring that up.
I mean, that was the worst. I almost got a technical for saying that was the worst thing ever. This guy is like, this is one of the stars of this league. You would never see that with LeBron. You would never see that with Kevin Durant. And you don't even know what he said. He could have been talking in Serbia, but you threw him out. And all these people, there was a big Serbian contingent at the game that comes every year when he comes to town. It's huge. I mean, he's probably the one guy that brings in the most people individually, just to see him. And those people I felt bad for those people because they can only see him once a year. And for the officials to not kind of be cognizant of that and understand, like, hey, this is a different guy here. This is the MVP guy. He's got a lot of people. To send him out that early in the game, man, I was so pissed when that happened.
Not to mention, you hear legends talking about how they make sure that they play on the road, especially the opposite conference, because that's the one time you're there throughout the season. And for him not to be able to dictate and for the refs to intervene and say, nah, man, you're not playing the second half of tonight's game was crazy. Like, I think that you probably need to swallow your whistle a little bit and acknowledge, hey, there's a lot of people here to see this, I'm going to call him once in a generation type player.
Especially when you see a guy like Draymond Green bark at officials and yelling and screaming and basically getting in your face constantly, and he never gets thrown out, and you throw out a guy that you didn't even know what he said. And he got fouled. And hey, listen, as a guy that calls the home game, I even said he got fouled. He got hacked, and he should have got a foul call. They didn't call it, and then he let the official basically know. And like I said, how do you even know what he said? First of all, because unless you got super ears, you would not have been, because he kind of talks really soft and like you don't know what he said. He could have said something in Serbian.
He definitely, I'm sure. I think he talks in Serbian. I think Luka swears in Slovenian. They found a little loophole there, but evidently it's not a loophole, and it can still get you got, in the officials' eyes.
All right, Tim, what do you want to know from Mike about the Joker?
Well, you brought up something earlier about when he was a little kid and pudgy
Yeah.
and taking pictures of him stuff, and that whole thing about putting stuff out in the universe. Did you ever talk to him about the picture of him in the Nuggets T-shirt or jersey when he was
I
a kid?
didn't. I didn't, but I know a little bit about it. And it's not as crazy as you think. It was honestly just happenstance. I think it was like a friend of a friend had like a Nuggets shirt. And but what I do know is that Mishko Raznatovich and the Nuggets president at the time, Tim Connolly, they were waiting for a special moment to share that. And it ended up being when he signed his max contract that they decided to share that picture. Like they were sitting on it for a little while. But that is I mean, that is incredible. The fact that
Amazing.
there's a picture of him in his youth, speaking it into existence, him becoming a Nugget superstar. But nah, I didn't necessarily because I kind of knew that it was like when you ask Joker a question and there's no story behind it, he shrugs his shoulders and he doesn't know what to say. So I knew I couldn't really waste any bullets on that.
Yeah.
Hey, before we let you go, I mentioned we worked together at NBC Sports Chicago, and you've made the transition from being a beat writer at the Denver Post. Now you're working in the front office. Tell us about that job, and do the Nuggets have it in to make a run for the championship this year?
The job came about super organically. I left after the Nuggets won the championship in 2023. I was working at the newspaper, and I take a break. My wife and I had just had a kid, and I didn't really want to travel to the extent that it was going to take. And somebody offers me the opportunity to write the book, and so I pursue the book for the next year. And then as the book is wrapping up, I kind of have some organic conversations with Nuggets management, and we kind of met in the middle. I was like, "Hey, man, if there's ever an opportunity for me to work or help you guys in any capacity, and I don't even know what capacity, if there's ever something that I can help you with, let me know." And I heard Calvin Booth told me he was like, "Yeah, I could see a role for you in this capacity." So we met in the middle. It's essentially, what's going on throughout the NBA. That's kind of my nebulous and vague role, in as much as I can say, but it is I am so fortunate on a million levels. Like to have even honest to God, to have started in Chicago and have rubbed elbows with all you guys and to have crossed paths with a lot of people who helped me in a million different ways and saw what a beat was like and saw what NBA coverage was like and saw the expectations, the standards, professionalism, all of that stuff. Everything was a learning experience, and you guys, I mean, seriously helped in that capacity. In terms of where we're at this year, now it's a we. Now we're the number 2 seed. Now we just got the biggest win of I'm going to say of our season, if not the NBA season, going to Oklahoma City, hang 145 on the best defense in the NBA on the second night of a back-to-back. The thing that I love is that the night before we lost, fourth quarter got away from us, but come back the second night. And that's a lot of resiliency against the best team in the West. That's a lot of resiliency to show up. You don't have Aaron Gordon. You're trying to, go deep into your bench, and some of these young guys are stepping up. And now it's like, okay, it's on. Like, we split the season series with OKC 2-2. We'll see about hey, where you guys heads at on MVP? Do I got to talk you into some stuff?
No, I think I know Shea. We had this conversation the other day about it. It's like Shea has been consistent, but so has Joker. They've both been consistent with their teams. Yeah, Shea's got the best record in the league. And he had the best record in the league, and their team was really doing well. So he had the edge early. But I think now Joker is either dead on or a little bit more, especially from that huge game that he had, because as many great players that has been in this league, I mean, Wilt Chamberlain, I'm talking about bigs that could put up those numbers, never did it. And here's a guy that just like nonchalantly just puts up a stat line like that we've never, ever seen. And that to me right there, and I say, hey, man, if it's a close race, that game is going to be the deciding factor, whether he gets MVP or not. Because I thought the year that Embiid won, I thought he should have won. I thought that was his too, and a lot of people thought that. And Embiid whined about it the year before. Oh, I didn't win the MVP. See, and then now the MVP to me is the most valuable player, not only to the league, but to your team and how much you actually mean to your team. You take Joker off that team, Denver wins games, but not like they're winning right now. They're not a top team in the league without him on the roster. You take Embiid out, you see what's going on down there in Philadelphia. But again, they still have enough talent. They should be a lot better than what they are. So I think that guy is going to win at least two more, maybe three before his career is over.
I mean, guys averaging a triple-double, 57 from the field, 43 from three-point land. And by the way, he actively heaves his shots at the end of the quarter. He's not stat padding. Remember that one he hit, the 75-footer? Who knows? Maybe you hit it. This dude is not out there chasing stats. And the stuff that he's doing is remarkable. It is laughable. And I wonder, if you looked at him in a vacuum, if you said, you know what, this dude doesn't have 3 MVPs, and we just said A to B, it's hard to not give it to the guy who's averaging the triple-double, in my opinion. But is voter fatigue and all of that stuff going to come into play? We'll find out. But I appreciate your perspective, Stacey.
I also think it's one of those things too, where a guy has won it so many times and they feel guilty.
It happens all the time. Happened with Jordan.
Jordan
should have won it every year.
Well, he's winning 3. Let's give it to someone else. And I think that's a bunch of bull crap. If the guy is the best in the league, he's the best in the league. Give it to him. He earned it.
Well, if he got one, quote unquote, taken from him from Embiid, you think he's cool with losing another one to Shea that he's supposedly deserving of? Like, this dude wants it. He cares. He wants to win. One more thing, and I don't know how long you guys have, but I'm surprised you guys didn't ask me about AK. AK sat down with me for the book. AK was. Yeah.
We had him on the show last week.
I watched it. I was prepared. I watched it.
Talk a little bit about AK's impact on the Denver Nuggets. He doesn't like to take any credit. He just says I was the guy that was just there. But I know he had some kind of impact on that organization.
He had a huge impact. And it's really hard to parse out who was quote unquote responsible for finding Joker, but AK was instrumental in him being on the radar, and it was instrumental in all the background and intel that they had about him. They felt confident about Joker at 41 because of Arturas and the relationships he had in Serbia, the relationships he had throughout Europe. That is unequivocal. He basically told me that. I don't care what he would admit to you guys. I had a long lunch with AK where I was interviewing him for the book. And I pulled up some clips of Joker when he was 17, 18 years old, clips that AK had never seen before. He's sitting there like gobsmacked. He's like, oh my God, just like pinching himself. He's like, he's a part of the story. AK is like inextricably part of the NBA history, given that he helped unearth Joker. And obviously what he's done in Chicago, like AK and I have a good relationship, and I understand how frustrating and how difficult it is when injuries kind of undermine the goal. But like, that dude is as competitive as anybody. He wants to win so badly for Chicago. I mean, honestly, after he got the job, he called me and was asking me, he was like, what do I got to know about Chicago? Help me out with the Chicago media. I was like, oh, they're soft. Don't worry about them.
Hey, he's taking a lot of heat, though. You know how fans are. They want success right away. They obviously were off to a great start when they made all those trades. They were first in the East at the midway point, and then everything kind of unraveled when Lonzo got hurt. Now they're trying to rebuild on the fly, which is probably the most difficult challenge for an executive.
Yeah, I mean, when he traded for Vucevic, I sent him a note. I said, what, you think you need a center named Nikola to win? And I think he enjoyed that one. But yeah, man. I mean, when I say that he is extremely competitive, like it kills him I mean, I'm assuming it kills him to have to be patient and have to just take a deep breath and say, all right, we're going to have to hit the reset to some capacity. I saw he doesn't like to use the word rebuild. Cool. I respect how hard he's trying, and I respect the type of players that he went and got. Like, Vooch was obviously a good win, and then Lonzo, but you can't predict the injury and just the way. Like, I thought it was one of the coolest stories in the NBA that to give Lonzo the extension, a guy who galvanizes the locker room and has been about the right stuff. So, like, look, I can promise you, AK is as frustrated as anybody, and all he wants to do is win and, validate the opportunity that he got. There's no question in my mind that it's eating at him,
Oh,
even if he
definitely.
doesn't say it.
Definitely. I mean, I talked to him after games. I mean, he's almost like he played. Like he was out there playing during that loss. And what I try to tell fans when they come up to me and ask is like, just be patient. I know it's hard to be patient because this organization, they're kind of spoiled with the 6 championships and having the greatest player of all time on your team. And that was a great team that was here in Chicago. And then Tibbs had a good team. And then you had, before Tibbs, there was a lot of down period with the Tim Floyd years. And you asked the fan base to be patient then. And then you got lucky. And you got Tibbs as a coach, and Tibbs kind of turned the culture around with the teams that he had. And they were probably one player away from possibly getting to a championship during those runs. But again, here we are in the same situation. AK comes in, and I like what he did. I mean, they swung for the fences right out the gate. They got rid of all these draft picks that they had that were just sitting here. They've been sitting here for years. Let's go out and get DeMar DeRozan, find a way to get him. Let's go. They tried to get Alonzo Ball the year before in a trade at the trade deadline, but couldn't work it out with New Orleans. Then they're able to get him later on. And then you have Zach Lavine here, and all these other pieces they had. You go get Vooch and Caruso. I mean, I understand what he was doing. You can't guard against injuries. You know this. You can't. I mean, it happens. One guy could go down. It can ruin your whole season. I mean, if Joker goes down for Denver right now, Lord forbid, it's over. It's over. It's done. I mean, you guys go from where are you at right now, seed wise?
Second seed.
Second seed. You probably go second seed, probably to a play-in situation, as Philadelphia has done with Embiid. That's how much he means to you, and that's how much Lonzo meant to us. And then for him to come back from a 2.5-year injury, and then, AK being able to give him that contract, and we get Giddey, who Dallas basically gave up on, he can't shoot, he can't defend. Now he's been a very good player for us. He's having a heck of a second half now that we made this trade, and he's going to command a lot of money in the free agency. But they have rebuilt this team, not the conventional way, Mike, where people want to build through the draft. Let's build through the draft. What AK has done is unconventional. He said, let me go out and get some players that have NBA starts and some experiences, and they're in their 20s. And that's what he's done. If you look at our roster, I think we went from, when we made the trade, we were 6th youngest, and I think now we're younger than that now since we made some other moves. But, I mean, I understand where they're going. I just tell fan base, just be patient, man. We've had worse. Please, we've seen worse. So chill.
Wouldn't you rather a guy be aggressive and try rather than just sit on his hands? Like, as a fan, wouldn't you rather a guy really try to make an impact and try to make a dent and improve the trajectory of your team? That's how I feel when teams are aggressive, as opposed to just sitting on their hands and biding their time. Like, it's hard. And like AK has told me, man, he goes, Bulls fans are the best. He feels so I don't know if it's pressure, but he feels so much responsibility to just do right by them, because they show out at the United Center, they pack the place, and they're loud, they're invested. AK wants to reward it. He is insistent on rewarding it, and I can't do anything but admire that approach.
Well, we hope it all turns out, and we hope that the Nuggets can make another run for a title. Mike, continue your great work now with the front office and the book again. Why So Serious? As we say goodbye, tell the folks how they can get a copy.
It's available everywhere. It's available Amazon, Barnes & Noble. They sell it in Chicago. Go crazy, Chicago. Go get it. But it's available. It's available all over the place. God willing, next Serbia night in Chicago, they'll be handing out copies.
One more question, Mike, before you go. Why did you pick that particular title?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So do you know the answer?
I kind of know the answer, because I think I do, because he doesn't take the game as serious as everybody would like him to think, or how he should be. They expect him to be basketball all the time, eat, sleep, drink basketball. And from the outside looking in, he doesn't take that approach. So it's kind of like a funny title.
Exactly. So that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is, obviously, his nickname is the Joker, right?
Yeah.
So in the Dark Knight, the Joker's famous line is, "Why so serious?"
So serious.
and so there's a lot of, again, once you get into this book, this dude is so complex and layered and just complicated and interesting and fascinating that why so serious? What I always say is that he takes nothing seriously, but he takes everything seriously at the same time. And you got to live in that gray area and figure out which one it is. Is he messing with you, or is he being genuine? And he loves it when you don't know the answer.
That's great.
Well,
That's a great title.
tremendous work to get him to, cooperate with the book and traveling to Serbia. Just a fantastic job on the book. We encourage everybody to go out and get a copy. And Mike, great catching up. Continued success with the Nuggets, and thanks for joining us on Gimme the Hot Sauce.
Appreciate it, guys. Big fans of your guys' work.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Singer, our guest today. Of course, NFL free agency is underway. People are complimenting the Chicago Bears as possibly winning the offseason. We'll talk about that in our final segment on Gimme the Hot Sauce. Our thanks to Mike Singer for joining us. Great stories about Nikola Jokic. Go out and get that book, Why So Serious? And it was based on the Joker line, which was great. The Chicago Bears have been the story of NFL free agency, what they call the legal tampering period, opened on Monday. Contracts can be signed on Wednesday. And it looks like the Bears, Stacey, have addressed the major needs. They've rebuilt the interior of the offensive line. They got a defensive tackle and a pass rusher, exactly what they needed. It looks like Ben Johnson's calling some shots over there.
Shout out to Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Way to go, Ben.
Because he wants to draft that running back.
Yeah, he might. Yeah,
he might now. I mean,
Yeah.
look, but the offensive line is tremendous.
Yeah.
I just saw the what's this, St. Brown complaining about the Bears having all this money on his podcast. He's sitting there complaining, where did the Bears get all this money? How they're just giving money. They're breaking everybody off with money. Well,
Falcons are done now.
Well, when you've been saving it for all these years,
You've been saving it,
and they got the vault open now, so they realize like, hey man, we need to start trying to win a Super Bowl. So now they open up the vault, backed up the Brinks truck, and went out and got everything that they needed.
And the key is having a quarterback on a rookie contract. That's what frees up the money. Once you're paying your quarterback $50 million a year, then you don't have any cap space.
Which is coming at some point. At some point, it's going to come.
So they got to load up on veteran talent.
Exactly.
Now.
So you got to load up on veteran talent now and get what you need. The big eyesore has been always the offensive line the last few years. It's just not been up to par. Now they've addressed it. They still got some other issues, but I thought that was the main thing. We've talked about it before. That was the main thing. That should have been number one priority. I think they've addressed it.
And the funny thing is, people always talk about the fact, well, Ryan Poles was an offensive lineman. How come he couldn't get the job done? Well, last year they went on the cheap. They got Bates and Coleman Shelton on bargain contracts. Now they got the best center on the free agent market in Drew Dahlman. They get Joe Tooney, who's won 4 Super Bowls. And they picked up Jonah Jackson, who Ben Johnson had before in Detroit. So he knows that this guy's a legitimate player. He was hurt last season. So now you take the interior line, which was a severe weakness. It's now a strength. And that's going to allow Ben Johnson to call all these great plays that he called in Detroit.
Well, and again, I mean, when you look at Poles was kind of on the hot seat. If you now you've got a coach that's got probably a strong personality. From his very first press conference, you could tell like this guy's like Dan Campbell. He's coming in rah rah rah. Let's go do what we got to do to win a Super Bowl. We're not here to
messing around.
We're not here to just be here. We're here to win everything. So that whole attitude now is kind of filtered throughout that whole Hallis Hall, and everybody now is on point. Like we got to get this guy what he wants, and then because he's a hot coach, and everybody talks about how great this guy's going to be as a coach. You got to give him the weapons. You got to give this quarterback who Ben Johnson believes, because Ben Johnson's not coming here if Caleb Williams is not what he thinks he is. Mm-hmm. He's not. He's going somewhere else. He wants a quarterback that can do what he needs him to do in offense. This kid has shown with a bad line that he's a legit quarterback. He's a star quarterback.
Yeah, he saw him up close in the 2 games the Lions played against the Bears, and he said this guy has supreme arm talent. And as an offensive coordinator, as a play caller, just thinking about what he can do with a quarterback like Caleb Williams, that's why there was no hesitation. He said, I want Chicago, and his agent got it done right away.
I mean, he's already made the comparison to Jared Goff. Like, he can just make throws that Jared can't.
That was
mean.
That was mean.
No, I know it was mean. He shouldn't have said that, but it's the truth. And maybe he shouldn't have said it that way because it came off kind of harsh. But I mean, Jared Goff won a lot of games with the way he's played. But now you got a quarterback that can make the throws that you need down the field and push the ball down the field even further and faster than what you were able to do in Detroit.
So the big question is, are you guys going to get sucked in again this coming year and say, yeah, this is a playoff team, we're going to have 12 wins?
That's the thing. Those teams haven't gone away. And
I
we'll
got
see
sucked
what
in
the
for 2
Vikings
years
do
in
at
a row.
quarterback.
I think we all did last 2 years. We were sucked into it. Justin Fields is going to be his big year. And okay, they got the team, they got the defense. Now they just got
Yeah.
the rookie quarterback.
Bears Nation.
Are we getting sucked
Bears
in again?
Nation.
Because I am.
Look,
I'm going to be right there.
Bears Nation, look, I'm pushing all the chips in, baby. I'm putting all the chips in. I'm
Super
going
Bowl.
all in. I'm not going to say Super Bowl. But I'm going all in that they are going to make the playoffs and they're going to cause some noise in the playoffs. They're going to be just like Detroit was. When Detroit came in off, after being on the Hard Knocks, they came in and their whole attitude changed, the culture changed. It took a little while. It took a couple of years before Dan Campbell was able to get the players that he wanted, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, all the key pieces to make Detroit a contender. And I think Ben Johnson's going to do the same thing. I think they've given him the keys to the building. What does it take? What do you say that we need? And I guarantee you, he had a whole portfolio of things that he wanted before he even came here. And that was promised to him. That's probably why he took the job, because he's like, hey, this is what I need for this team to be successful. I need these coaches, and I need these kind of players. Make it happen, and I'll be here.
And I think we're going to see some changes at running back, too. They had DeAndre Swift in Detroit and let him walk to go to Chicago. So reading between the lines, I don't think Ben Johnson's a huge Swift fan. So if they don't take Ashton Genty at 10, they may take a running back in the second round who's going to get a lot of carries next year.
Well, and he's going to try to, simulate what they had in Detroit, where you had a fast running back and you had a guy that can, like Montgomery, that can run between the tackles and get you the tough yards and then chew up the clock. So I don't see him, because that's been a successful formula for him. You had the home run hitting back, and you had the one guy that just wears you down and liable to break one after running you over, 20 plays. And he's like, Montgomery's able to bust one out for 40 or 50 yards.
We got that guy.
Yeah, we got that guy. I mean, but I wouldn't be surprised, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Genty's there, they take him. He's proven a durable, a home run hitter with power. You give him a good offensive line to block behind. I mean, no telling what he can do. Listen, Saquon Barkley's bringing the running back, baby. He's bringing the running back.
They kind of leaked it, didn't they, when they said, hey, we're picking the best available player on the board, period.
Yeah.
And so,
well, that could be an offensive tackle, though,
well,
because Braxton Jones is coming off a serious injury,
mm-hmm.
And he was not what you'd call an all-pro kind of player, so they could upgrade at that position at 10, too.
Yeah, I don't know, Mark. I mean, I don't know. You can get offensive linemen later in the draft. You can get them in the third, fourth, fifth. The running back is, I think, if they're looking at the running back, I think that's the most important thing, because obviously, like you said, he wasn't a big fan of Swift. Maybe they didn't want to, pay Swift. We don't. Maybe he was a big fan of Swift, and the organization's like, we don't want to pay. We want to go in a different direction. We can get this guy better. And so he might say, let's keep Swift. Swift can catch the ball. He can block. He can run between the tackles. And then let's use that pick and try to get a home run guy, a guy that can go between the tackles and go for 60, 70 yards.
Yeah, draft's over a month away, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. They've got 3 picks in the top 52, so they can add 3 more really good players. And they also took care of defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. They brought in Grady Jarrett, the very productive veteran defensive tackle from the Falcons, and a guy who's going to be a broadcaster's nightmare, Deo Odengbo, as I guess the way it's pronounced, a 25-year-old rusher from the Indianapolis Colts. Didn't have great stats last year, but people are raving about his potential. Odengbo got 3 years, $48 million, even though his production wasn't that high. And I know that a lot of scouts think that he can be a great pass rusher opposite Montez Sweat, which is something they desperately missed last year.
Well, they don't have to go out and spend any money trying to go get a pass rusher, because they're not going to be any kind of sweepstakes to get Myles Garrett. You're not going to be able to get that kind of guy. And you got Joey Bosa out there. You got Khalil Mack. That you've heard they're
signed with the Chargers.
Yeah, so those guys who are out there. I mean, Joey Bosa, like, do you really go out and go get a guy like that who can't stay healthy?
He's been hurt a lot.
He's been hurt his whole career.
Yeah.
I hear he wants to go play with his brother. Probably be one of those guys they rotate in a rotation. But I think his better days are behind him. But yeah, I'd go with the younger guy and let him develop and turn him into something special.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. Dennis Allen, a very highly
Dennis
regarded
Allen ain't no joke at the DC.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen's got a reputation of really having some really good defenses. So
to answer Tim's question, I guess we're
pushing all in, baby. Bears Nation, baby. We haven't been this excited since 2 years ago, baby. Last year too. It was last year too. We were excited. 2 years in a row, we thought they were going to make the playoffs. They were 7-7 and 10 one year, and we all they got to do is win 3 games.
They won 5.
They won 5. Oh Lord. So we lost the house, but now we're in the trailer, and we're gonna double up. We're gonna double down on it. They're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna cause some noise in the playoffs. I don't know about Super Bowl, but they're gonna make the playoffs. So I'm betting my trailer, my little trailer that's outside back there, the tiny little house. I'm betting it, baby. Don't let me lose that now, Bears. Don't let me lose it, baby. I'll be on the streets. We'll work for food. Oh, Lord.
There you go. Off-season champions, Ben Johnson. Yeah, all the moves that the Bears made you see on your screen if you're watching on YouTube.
Off-season champs. I like that.
Some other NFL notes. Sam Darnold, who had such a great year with the Minnesota Vikings, is now going to Seattle because they traded their quarterback Geno Smith to the Raiders. And Justin Fields, our guy, is going to try his luck with the New York Jets after Aaron Rodgers failed miserably. Fields gets a 2-year, $40 million contract with the Jets. What do you think about Fields in New York?
That's a good place for him. That's a good. They definitely could use him at quarterback. I mean, this year was supposed to be 2 years ago when they got Aaron Rodgers, it was supposed to be a Super Bowl caliber team. They had a Super Bowl caliber defense. They thought Aaron Rodgers would come in to upgrade their offense. It didn't happen. He gets hurt. Then it was just a disaster last year. I mean, it was just a total disaster. So how many of those guys on defense are still there? Do they still have a top-notch NFL defense? And then, what are they going to have on offense? What weapons? You got the kid, the receiver, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson.
You play with him at Ohio State.
Yeah. So, that's that. They probably have a rapport with one another. You lose Devontae Adams, so like who's the other weapons they got there? So, and their running back, the Breece Hall is, he's a great running back, but he's always hurt. He's got knee injuries. So it'll be interesting to see how Justin Fields turns out. I think it'd be a good move for him, good move for his career. Plus, he's playing outdoors in the cold. It doesn't affect him one bit. Aaron Rodgers is still available. There's talk that he might go to the Steelers now. Sam Darnold, congratulations, Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he got paid
but
$100 million.
But now you worry about Sam Darnold is that his career got turned around by the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach.
O'Connell,
yes,
head coach,
and the head coach. They turned him around and got him back to being the player that everybody thought he was going to be when he came out of USC. Now you want to know if the clock strikes 12, does he go back to being a pumpkin?
Do you have a prediction?
Pain for Seattle. Pain. I don't think he's gonna play at that level that he played at last year in Minnesota. And I'm not a hater. I want all people to succeed. But I just think that he was in the right situation at the right time. Those guys resurrected his career because he was in San Francisco with another great offensive guru in Kyle Shanahan in that offensive system. And then, it didn't work out. And he's been other places. So it'll be interesting to see. And then you got Geno Smith in Oakland. Vegas. I keep saying Oakland. It's hard for me to say Vegas. And you got to wonder what Vegas is going to do. Like, there's quarterbacks on the draft board. You got Shedeur Sanders, who has a relationship with Tom Brady, who's been working with him for like the last 10 years as a quarterback. So if anybody knows Shedeur Sanders better than anybody in the draft, other than his dad,
that's where he's going.
Is Tom Brady. So I would not be surprised if they don't draft Shedeur Sanders and play him behind Geno Smith for a year or two, let him develop, let him get himself ready. And have a package for him. They're not sitting him on the bench the whole time, but have a package for him to go. So it wouldn't surprise me he doesn't end up in Vegas because what I see right now with Shedeur Sanders and is a smear campaign, basically. You go from loving the kid to now you're questioning his attitude, his work ethic, and that's what they do to guys who somebody wants to slip in the draft. You just start these rumors, and no one puts their name on any of it.
Disinformation.
Yeah, no one puts their name on it, and it's really sabotaging a kid, and that's wrong. Any people who do that should be outed. You shouldn't be able to spew something like that and then hide behind like, oh, but you didn't hear it from me. It's anonymously. That's bullshit. You know what? Say what you got to say. If you don't like the kid, say I don't like the kid. I think he holds on to the ball too long. I think he doesn't have the mobility to get in or out of the pocket. I think he's going to be sacked. I think he's a traffic cone. Say that and put your name on it. But don't sit up there and question the kid's character.
He's too cocky.
He's too cocky.
Yeah.
What great quarterback is not cocky?
Yeah.
I mean, you go back and look at all the
It's
great
almost a job requirement.
you have to be. And all that is confidence. Yeah. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes with the throws he makes and how he carries himself. If Patrick Mahomes didn't have that swagger about him, he would not be the same player. I mean, all these great quarterbacks have it. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow. I mean, these guys have what you want to be great. And that's what this kid has. Just because you don't like his dad, because his dad has predicted these things like LeVar Ball. If you want to go anywhere, go look at LeVar Ball. You know what? don't be mad at the dad because the dad has these kids have been raised as professional athletes. Both his sons has been raised as professional athletes, so they are prepared for the pro game. Accept it.
Yeah.
It's not arrogance if you can back it up.
Exactly right. And then we'll be watching as the local guy, J.J. McCarthy, takes over as quarterback with the Vikings. Before we get out of here, it's our regular feature. What are we watching? You saw one of the Academy Award nominated movies.
Yeah, I was a little hesitant to tune in to Conclave, because it seems like a boring topic, but it's about
I could see you
appointing
wearing
the
that
new-
outfit, Whispers.
I have one. I gave
Sometimes he's over role playing in the bedroom, baby.
It's a little weird, but
Yeah.
it comes out every now and then.
Oh my God! That's
What'd you think? What's your review?
They
How
put
many
out the white
stars you
smoke or the black smoke. I thought it was excellent. I mean, it's based on some things that have happened in the past, I guess, with getting the new pope appointed and the whole process. What even the term blackballing means, and
Yeah, there's politics in the Catholic Church.
oh, it's unbelievable the
yeah.
stuff these guys pull on each other and the intrigue and the deception and stunts that they pull while they're trying to become the pontiff. It's
Men of God campaigning for the top job.
oh yes, they can be some real shitbags.
Yeah, terrible.
Stacey, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with Flight Risk with Mark Wahlberg. It's a movie. They start in Alaska. They start in Alaska, and so there's the FBI catches the accountant for a crime family called the Moretti's. They catch this guy. They bring him in. Yeah, Moretti. It might be Moretti. Free plug, baby. They're in Flight Risk. Oh Lord, they supplied the pizza to everybody, baby. So this guy, the accountant, this is Topher Grace. He skims money off the top, $1 million. So the Morettis are looking for him. So they hire Mark Wahlberg as the assassin. So he goes over to Alaska, tortures the real guy, who's from Texas, has a Texas accent. He takes on this Texas accent. They don't know he's a killer. They're flying off. You got the FBI agent, which is a lady, and then you got the Topher Grace, who's the accountant. So they're on a plane, and then his accent slips a couple of times, and then they're like, okay, this guy's from Texas. He's born and raised in Texas, but it doesn't sound like he's from Texas. Yeah. Then they see that he has some wounds on his body where, he had been in, fighting the guy who he ended up killing to take the plane over. So, and he's got a bad hairpiece. I'm telling you right now. Just watch the movie for the hairpiece. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg with he's got a full head of hair, and then all of a sudden it comes off, and then he looks like a bad, white George Jefferson. It's horrible. It's horrible. But it's a good movie. It's a lot of action in it. Mel Gibson was produced and directed it, so it's got to have a lot of action in it.
So it's like a modern version of Con Air with Nick Cage.
Yeah, you know what, Mark, you hit the nail on the head. It's kind of like Con Air, but with only 3 people on the plane.
Yeah. Smaller group.
Yeah, small group. Small group.
Well, sticking with the sports theme, I wanted to check out the documentary that just came out on HBO Max a couple of weeks ago. It's called We Beat the Dream Team. It was produced by Grant Hill, who, of course, now is the director of USA Basketball. He was part of the U.S. select team that was chosen to compete against the Dream Team, and the famous story about how they beat them in the initial scrimmage. And Coach K was an assistant on that team. Chuck Daly, of course, was the head coach of the Dream Team. And Coach K insists to this day, it's a big part of the documentary, that Chuck Daly had them throw that game on purpose so that they would teach them that there was a chance they could lose. So he sat Michael and some other guys and let these college kids beat him. And, of course, Grant Hill, Chris Webber, they interview everybody from the select team. They're saying, that's all bullshit. We just kicked their ass. And throughout the documentary, they keep going back to Coach K saying, "Oh, he was brilliant by Chuck Daly," and the whole thing, and then at the end, they end the documentary with all the Dream Team guys, Barkley, Ewing, Michael going, they kicked their ass. It was just one scrimmage. The next day they played, and the Dream Team beat them by like 70. But it was just they just came in and didn't take it seriously, and these college kids. They went in knowing that they lost their chance to go to the Olympics because that was the first year that they had pro. So they wanted to send a message to these NBA guys. They got them once. They didn't get them a second time.
Yeah, there was a lot of great college players on. You had Allen Houston was on that team, Chris Webber. I mean, there were some all NBA
Bobby
guys
Hurley
on there.
on
Rodney Rogers was on there before he got hurt. There's a lot of good players on that team. But I you know what? Listen. I could tell you for a fact, like I know when Phil would sit Michael, and say, all right, Mike, take the day off and we scrimmage, and it would just be Pip and then the rest of them, we'd bust their ass. We'd bust the Bulls' ass. Second team would always beat them. Anytime, and Michael would be fuming.
Put me in,
man,
coach.
You talk about an ultra competitive guy. Michael would be sitting over there pacing like a panther, like wanting to get in the game. Phil, let me put me in. No, Michael, let's just sit over there. Let's let it play out. And we're over there talking trash. We're running out. Where you at, Black Cat? There's no Black Jesus tonight. and we beat him, and then we want to go cut the nets down. Me and BJ, let's go cut the net down, B. Let's go cut the net down. And Phil, don't you cut those nets down. And then we'd be like, we're number one. I mean, and he would be so mad. The next day, dude, we had that scrimmage, we would be lucky if we scored a point. Seriously. They beat us like 11-0. They dominated us. And it was all because of him. Because it wasn't because of Pip. It was because of him. Because he would score like 9 or 10 of the points. And he would just, oh my God, it was a beatdown. And it was, I could see that happening. If he did sit out, I could see them winning the game if he was out. But if he's in the game, I don't see that.
Well, the funny thing is that, Grant Hill's comes across on TV as very, buttoned down, mild-mannered. And at one point in the documentary, they have him sit down with Coach K in a conference room, much like this, and they try to talk it out. And Coach K's trying to convince him that Chuck let the select team win. And you could see Grant Hill getting pissed. And they cut to him, and he's like, this is some bullshit. We killed them. How can you say that they threw the game? Taken away because they lost their chance to go to the Olympics that year. Yep. And now you're going to try to take that away from me?
And that doesn't make sense. And again, I mean, that was the only team, honestly, they could have beat the Dream Team. That was the only time they lost.
Yeah, they weren't close in those other countries.
So you're going to take that away from us.
Yeah.
That's our one big thing, that we beat the greatest team ever assembled, and you're going to take it away and dumb it down like, oh, the only reason why he won because he set out so many guys. No, I'd take that win too.
Yeah, and I think there were 8 guys in the select team, and I think only Grant Hill and maybe Chris Webber eventually got to play on an Olympic team. So they never really, they lost that opportunity.
Well, you know what, Mark? I mean, because I almost made the last college team that went to the Olympics, and John Thompson was coaching that team, and and I love John Thompson. John Thompson, rest in peace, was a great man and a good friend. But he just took the wrong guys.
Yeah.
He took a team that was very similar to his Georgetown team, where it was all defense.
They couldn't shoot.
They wanted to play defense, but they didn't have scores. You had David Robinson there, and people got to remember David Robinson was doing his 2-year mission, so he had been away from basketball for like 2 years. So he was doing his service with the Navy, so he had been away from basketball. So he wasn't the David Robinson that we saw in the NBA. David Robinson, and so they didn't have the personnel to be able to go up against, Sabonis and those kind of guys. They didn't have scores, and that's where they got in trouble. They ended up getting a bronze, and that's when the USA came back and said, hey, you know what? This has never happened again. We're going to send our pros against their pros. And, that's what you get out of it. They haven't lost since.
Yeah, now going back to our interview with Mike Singer talking about the great European players, the field has been leveled. You see teams like Serbia, like France, they can go head to head with the top American guys. They needed Steph Curry to shoot the lights out in the fourth quarter to win that gold medal.
If I'm the USA, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I'm concerned because France is the team that's coming. France has at least 3 or 4 guys in the league right now that are starters, that are legit, like first round, lottery pick. Yeah. The kid. There's 2 kids in Alex Sarr. You got the Rich Array. I mean, you got the Wemby. I mean, they got some talent coming. And don't be surprised what Luol Deng is doing with that African team.
South Sudan. Yeah,
they're coming. Hey, listen, they are coming. Yeah. The world is coming. That's why I said, if you want to spruce up the All-Star game, you want to spruce it up, you want to get competition and competitiveness, put the world against the USA.
That guy put money on the world in that game.
The world, let me tell you something. Here's what will happen. The world would come out and they would take it seriously.
Oh, definitely.
And they would play to win. Yeah. The Americans be laughing, throwing up lobs, not playing defense. Before you know it, you're down 60 points. To Luka, the Joker, Giannis. Those are 3 top players right there that play hard every single night.
If you give them the Canadian kids,
you got to give it to them.
Yeah,
that's the only way you can balance it out. So they got to be part of the world. Yeah. Canada's not part of the United States.
Well, they're the 51st state.
Well, according, the Gulf, just like we're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Okay, so Canada's got to go over to the world. Yeah. Okay, now you get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on that squad. Lou Dort, who can play defense, another a solid defensive player. Jamal Murray, Andrew. Oh man, it would be, if you really want to spruce the game up, Adam Silver,
That's what
you're
they should
listening?
do.
I gave you 2 ideas. I gave you 2 ideas, Adam
Saving
Silver.
the league.
I'm trying to
Saving
save
the
the league,
Olympics.
okay? I told you the All-Star game, go with those, the world versus the U.S. And if you want to stop this tanking in the NBA, guys sitting out guys that tank for the lottery tournament. Give me a lottery tournament. You take the lottery team, just like you have the in-season tournament. You have a end of the season tournament with the lottery teams. Whoever's going to be in the lottery, it'll already be determined.
Yeah.
And you play a lottery system. It's like the NCAA tournament, one and done. The winners keep advancing. Top 4 teams get the top 4 picks depending on the way they finish.
Yeah.
If you want to go 5 on down, they get the ping pong balls.
Yeah.
They get to use the ping pong ball. But 1 through 4, you win the tournament, you get first pick, second pick, third pick, fourth pick.
I love it.
So Adam Silver, if this comes to play, we make sure we keep all files, because I've been saying this for a long time. I want to make sure I get credit for this. Don't act like y'all created it, because Stacey has been saying it for the longest. So we have it on file over here. Give me the hot sauce. And just use my ideas if you want to spruce up the league.
So we had a 70-degree day the other day, so people are going to start cooking out. How can they get some the best barbecue sauce in the world and all the hot sauces?
Well, just get to that website and use those codes and order up. GimmeTheHotSauce.com. GIMME, thehotsauce.com. Free shipping, half price on barbecue right now, and half price on 1871. You can't beat
Barbecue season again.
Let's do it.
Great to see the warmer weather coming. Looking forward to
Hey,
it.
Mark, are you going to eat that pickle on your plate?
Oh, no.
Did you like that?
I did. On our group text, the old Christopher Walken
What
drop.
a look, huh?
Yeah.
His alien arms.
Oh, my God.
On that note, I think it's time to pull down the curtain on this edition of Gimme the Hot Sauce. I want to thank Mike Singer. Go out and get his book, Why So Serious? The story about the Joker, Nikola Jokic. Until next week, Stace.
Drive home safely. Chicago, BB.
Oh! He didn't come for the massage, he came for the facial. Does anybody know how to post videos to Facebook? There's a block party, Mike. Did he get the invitation? That's a huge 3! Mustard! Lonzo left alone. Give me that sauce. Able to swerve, bend that corner. That's the last time I'm going to say it. Williams straight on. Got it!